Welcome to Bears Country Podcast, Last Call at Halas Hall. This is the Barroom Network after party show after we're wrapping up our final thoughts from this oddly inspiring loss to the Vikings. We got a lot to talk about with that. I think that we all kind of feel the same way about this game. This game looked like it could have gone out of hand very quickly, and the Bears somehow reined it back in, and they only ended up giving up their first touchdown of the second half in this last game. So that's something to kind of be inspired about. So we have Dan Aguire here, and we also have our special guest, Kenny, who's joining us from chat. So let's get at it. Can you... I hit the wrong one. I don't have my producer. Let's get at it.
Bears Country. Where is it? It's in your man cave. Your home. Your car. Your local bar. Your city. State. It's across the world. It's in your heart. And it's here. The Bears Country Podcast.
Welcome to Bears Country Podcast, Last Call at Halas Hall, our post-barroom after party. We are here with Dan Aguire again, and we're going to be joined by special guest Kenny from chat to kind of help drown our sorrows more in this kind of inspiring win, I should say. I know that's how I kind of feel about it, Dan. How do you feel about this game?
Yeah, it's one of those, they got away from us, but to be down 21-3, to come back and lead 22-21, albeit for a fleeting moment, and for Fields to get into a rhythm, it just, it's like, well, let's see it again next week or Thursday, 2 days from now or 3 days from now, whatever. It feels like we've hit a stride and it's just going to improve now. Of course, there's going to be bad games, but the part that it's inspiring is everyone can see this guy can play now. Mm-hmm. He's got to be consistent, but you saw it. You saw it with your own fucking eyes yesterday, and the first couple weeks we hadn't really seen it sans the San Francisco game in the rain. So it was inspiring for us that have been on his bandwagon to show us something, because he had struggled for 3 games, and he finally he came through. So that's the part that's inspiring, but it's still 2-3, and that blows.
And at least we're seeing it now kind of in game 5 rather than game 12 or 13 last year that we were seeing it in with the Ravens and the Steelers. I think the Ravens game was earlier than that, but it was late in the season when we were starting to see the inspiring play from Justin, and the fucking game just for whatever reason got away. The refs got in the way. In that Pittsburgh game, that was his best game by far, in my opinion. And this season, it starts to feel like you're seeing that start to come to fruition again. I mean, learning a new offense is not easy. It's going to take anyone time. So patience has been a word that we've all been needing to preach and follow. And I called 11-6. I'm probably not going to be right on that, but I'm still preaching patience because I know that's not going to happen overnight. And if I'm only off by 1 or 2 games on that predicament, I'll be happy with that.
I mean, there's still 12? There's 12 games to go. So for them to win 11, they have to go. See what they got. Wait a minute, is it 12 games left? Yeah, because there's 17 now. It's I still haven't gotten used to that. And so they've won 2, so they need to win 9 more, so they could go 9-3. But let me point this out: 05, they hadn't won in forever, 4 years at that point, and they started 1-3. Mike Brown said we suck after the Cleveland loss when they led 10-0 in the fourth quarter and lost it. And you didn't even have your quarterback, and they managed to turn out 8 straight wins in 05 out of nowhere and won the division title. So, and again, it was supposed to be Green Bay or Minnesota that won it, not the Bears. So things happen. You just got to get some momentum. And man, for 2 hours Sunday, we had momentum, and we hadn't had it all season. Except
I know it felt good, didn't it?
It did. It felt good. Like against San Francisco, they started playing poorly. The 49ers. Who's to say if Garoppolo's playing, he's not matching us point for point there. But yesterday, I felt like Fields could have handled whoever. If that would have been Aaron Rodgers, we can match him. It felt like if you score, we're going to score by the time we got into a rhythm. And it's just so disappointing that the defense laid down. And then, of course, the turnover.
And there's always that moment from Kirk Cousins. You're kind of waiting for the other shoe to drop. Like there's a turnover somewhere in here. I just feel it. And I started to feel that during the game yesterday, and I was right. It came. And fucking Kindle Vildor of all people.
Yeah, and I just hate that these quarterback, every quarterback we play has these great statistics. Like Kirk Cousins setting a Vikings record for the most consecutive completions to start a game. Like that hurts my feelings terribly. Like this guy's not that good. I mean, he's good. He's an above average quarterback, and I don't mean that disparagingly. He's the kind of guy that can play until he wants to retire. Like there's a place for him somewhere in the league. Because every quarterback, the teams always need a quarterback. So he's good enough to win you games, but he's not good enough to be fucking 24 of 24 or whatever. That's just lack of defense because we're playing off and we're leaving a dynamic wide receiver wide open and just refuse to change.
2 things to that. Kirk Cousins, I was so impressed with the Redskins at the time drafting RG3 with like the second pick in the first round, and then going and getting Kirk Cousins in the third round, I believe.
Yeah,
and
right.
2 quarterbacks in one draft. I was so impressed with that because that's something that I would have done as a general manager, in the moment like that. And they ended up RG3 ends up not panning out, and look what would have happened if they just would have hung on to Kirk Cousins. He's not a terrible quarterback. He just has a problem with those. He's almost too cerebral, and it's almost like he has problems with those big games because he's just thinking about it too much, and he has more time to think about it because they're in the afternoon or at night, rather than I'm sure that he's the kind of guy that's up every day at 4 a.m. and no matter what, and he can't turn his brain off. So you get him at noon, it's harder to win. If you get him at 7 or 8 o'clock at night, it's easier to win.
It's ironic that I remember Washington drafted Heath Schuler, who ended up being a congressperson for a while, but they drafted Heath Schuler in the first round in 94. And then somewhere in the subsequent rounds took Gus Frerotte, and Gus ended up being the better player and hung around forever. Same comparison with Kirk Cousins and RG3. But I will tell you, RG3 was dynamic his rookie year, and if he hadn't gotten hurt, we probably would have never heard of Kirk Cousins because RG3 was balling out his rookie season. People forget that he got hurt in that Seattle playoff game and was never the same.
All right. Yeah. I know. It was unfortunate. Well, Dan, we have Kenny from chat waiting in the wings. Why don't we bring him on and get his perspective on this game?
Gentlemen, good evening. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, Kenny. Thank you for joining us. How are you tonight?
Very well. Hey, cheers to a Bears Moral Victory Monday.
Moral Victory Monday. That's a good way to put it. I don't feel terrible about this loss. I'm more gut-wrenched by that. Well, I'll just pull it up again. I'm more gut-wrenched by this.
Yeah, that's PI all day. All day.
That's a personal a personal a PI.
Pass
Thank you.
interference.
Jesus
Yeah.
Christ. Kitty, I thought Kitty was not producing the show tonight, so now I'm all befuddled because I'm trying to manage all this myself, but I see that she's here. Kitty, can you pull up the other video of the actual play of the game that I'm pissed off about? No, that's not it. It's right here. I got it. What in the actual fuck?
Yeah, I had the intention of not coming on here angry, and that play just made me angry again. That is what my father would call trying to be a hot dog and ending up a weenie. You would think at any level, I mean, it's easy to come on and armchair, football player, say, call out players for mental mistakes, but you're a professional. You got to know. Anyone sitting there watching the game knew you get the ball, you run out of bounds. I mean, it's football 101. That was a really tough play, and obviously, tries to break it for a gain against this former team. And, you end up getting the ball punched out right away, and that's a wrap. So that was a tough play. It was good leadership from Justin to go put his arm around the kid. But you could lose your job very easily. It's the NFL, not for long. You could easily get waived on a play like that.
It's the comeback that never was.
Very similar to the Steelers game. It is what, it is the, two would have been, signature win games where you don't come out feeling terrible. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, it's kind of foolishness. You can make arguments one way or another, but it's just discipline lost both those games is the common denominator.
I want to play devil's advocate and not to contradict Kenny or anyone else, but earlier in the game, as you know, he had that bullshit holding call on him, that negated Fields' touchdown. And you combine that with the fact that he's playing his former team, and he's been with the Bears, like Dan's graphic said, since September 1. And this was his first significant moment with the Bears a month and a half later almost. I think the guy, he's like, I'm on the field. I got to make up for that penalty earlier. I'm against these assholes here that cut me. The dude's just trying to make a play and selfishly is trying to earn a spot on the field. Say, hey, I can do this. This is my first moment you guys have given me. I've seen Pettis drop ball after ball. I'm finally getting a shot. I'm going to show everybody that I'm worthy of my spot. And he fumbled the ball. And again, it's sickening as a Bear fan. It made me like, oh, God, here we go again. But I can see his perspective. The dude's trying to make a fucking play. He's trying to earn a spot. I'm going to give him a mild pass. Like, I honestly felt less disgusted by that Not the fact that ended the game was disgusting, but I was less disgusted by that than seeing Pettis continually drop balls when he's wide open. At least he caught it, and he made one good juke to make a first down. He should have gone out of bounds. I give you that, but he's a guy trying to make a play, in my opinion.
I completely agree. I don't, I'm not out, I'm not calling to go out in front of his house with pitchforks. He
Right.
was being a competitor, so it's tough when you get that ball, you just want to go. But at the same time, he's trying to get that play, that interference call back, but that's where trying to be a hot dog, he's trying to make a play, but that's in the best interest of himself and not the team, and that's where the mistake is. Because again, in that situation, hindsight's 20/20. So if he would have ran it to the house, it's a different conversation, and we're like, why isn't he our number 2 receiver? But should have, I don't know about coaching. They see him more, but maybe he should have gotten a little more tick. I don't know exactly what his snap count was in the previous games, but that's a high pressure situation where I'm sure he was blindsided. He was seeing tunnel vision at that moment.
I agree with you so much, because I'll leave this. This could be rhetorical and we can move on and Dan has something else. But imagine if any of us were in that exact same spot. Wouldn't we also be desperate to make a big play to make up for that penalty and for the team that cut us? And we're trying to prove to the world that we can do this. Like, to me, if that's me, I mean, I'd like to think I would have gotten out of bounds, but you also have all the pressure in the world to make a play to give yourself a position to be on the team. Because you got Harry's coming back. So maybe he's thinking, I'm going to lose my spot to Harry.
Well, I was going to say that maybe did either of you guys watch the press conference with the coach and what the response was to that, or anything from the media? Because I haven't myself. I don't know if. Okay, so the only thing I can come up with is that it was designed. They said, try to, don't go out of bounds. We still have a minute 12 left in a timeout, and we don't want to score too quickly and give them the ball back. So maybe that was the thinking there, was don't go out of bounds. And so he was trying not to. But
yeah, I don't think I listened to some of the interviews. They didn't. It came up. They didn't go over it. It was more Justin giving a brief, like, that's a tough moment. We got to lift him up. He's going to be a good player in this league, which, it is good to hear from your quarterback. But at the same time, it's that's somewhere where someone's got to be in your ear when you're coming out. Like, they know what play they're going to run. Who knows what read he was, but I have to imagine it was an idea that he was 1 or 2. That's coaching most on, and I think most the things that annoyed me from the game, more the Pettis drops were tough, but I think there were a couple small coaching decisions that I think annoyed me in the game more so than a kid trying to make a play, because I completely get that angle. But at the same time, it's the NFL. You're a professional. Those are the small details that are the difference between winning or losing. And again, if he would have housed it, it's probably a different conversation. But you can even go back at the time and where they were on the field. Get out of bounds. You have the first down. It wasn't a 4th and 15. You have the first down. Get out of bounds. You have another play to put the ball back in Justin Fields' hand.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can get behind that. It's, you're in the moment and you're trying to make a play for your team. So I'll give the kid the benefit of the doubt on that. I'm not going to go at him with pitchforks either. I don't mean to. I know he's trying, so I don't mean to make poo-poo on him. But what else about the game? Like, what do you got? What do you think about the defensive line, Kenny?
When I was taking notes watching the game, the word I kept coming back to was inconsequential. They were getting pressures. They weren't they weren't being stood up the entire night. But it's not enough. It wasn't enough. There was a few. I don't know if they might have gotten Kirk on one sack officially. There was a couple. I know Travis Gibson had a couple pressures that would have been sack if the ball didn't come out right before. But at the same, in the run defense, they were getting gashed. They didn't give up any huge plays, but you were still giving up 3 to 8, a bit. So those add up. The first downs kept coming. So, you could say it's improvement, but also you were getting the ball run on you all day. So it wasn't terrible. I like Justin Jones, but Al-Quadin has not. He got a holding call, which I think has been the most he's done thus far. I haven't seen him set the edge well. Again, some pressures, but nothing, nothing of consequence. So that, again, inconsequential. Nothing to make the opposing team alter their game plan or their rhythm.
They need that big pig on the defensive line.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Watts played a little bit early in the Akeem Hicks role, but it was like the first drive, and then I didn't see him much the rest of the game. And because he's wearing 96, he automatically makes me think of Akeem Hicks. But right. I thought maybe he was gassed. I don't know, but I think he deserves more time up front there, especially when you can't stop the run. And when Kenny kept saying inconsequential, it made me think of Roquan. Now, I know Roquan had the big play against the Texans. It gave us a win. He had all those tackles. But other than that game, it feels like everything Roquan ever does is sort of 12 tackles, but they were down the field 15 yards and he made the tackle. It feels like anytime he has an opportunity to make an impact play, like has Dalvin Cook in the backfield, he burst through Roquan's tackle, though. He's the one to me that is really underperforming sans that tremendous game against the Texans, in addition to Robert Quinn, who needs to wake the fuck up.
It's why I'm glad Poles didn't end up signing him to some huge contract, not knowing what you were getting out of him in a 4-3 defense as a will linebacker. And it's proven to be the case. I mean, there's people that can sit in his corner and say, he got 16 tackles the last game and 12 or whatever before that. But like you said, Dan, they're not all. He's not stopping. How many tackles for loss are they? He's not getting in there.
How many sacks? Ever any splash plays other than that interception?
Right.
Yeah, he was definitely in position. I think maybe the third touchdown on the goal line, and that's where I get encouragement from the defense, because it's not like they're they don't know what to do. Some adjustments come a little bit later than you would like, but players are in position to make plays. There's plenty of times where it's open to the cornerback or the linebacker to make that open field tackle, and that's the difference of stopped at the line or a tackle for a loss or giving up 8 to 10 additional yards. So there were tackles to be made. I think they were generally in the right position, more so than previous weeks. But then you got to make the play. And there were a couple cuts. What kept coming back to my mind was, and coaches see more than me again, But I'm like, wow, I wonder what Kyrus Tonga and Thomas Graham would look here. A cornerback that showed promise. We never got a full explanation on why he didn't make the cut, aside from few injuries, maybe attitude. And then Kyrus Tonga, where they decided to flip Tonga for Armin Watts, and Armin Watts has been decent, but maybe a big thick run stuffer in there and look a little bit different.
Mm-hmm. I like the last thing that you just said about go back 2 points ago. I was trying to pull up that banner. Sorry. You made a really good point. Like in your last, what was the last thing you just said? Dan, you got to remember.
What he was talking about, Tonga versus Watts, and how maybe they shouldn't have given up on Tonga so quickly. And Thomas Graham,
yes, thank you. They didn't let him go, but they didn't free up the spot on the actual roster to pull him up off of the practice squad, and then he gets plucked by who? Cleveland, I think.
I think, and I'm not sure. I haven't been paying attention to either of them playing, so I don't know what their careers have become as of yet.
But Thomas Graham would have been great to be able to plug in right now when we're down at Jalen Johnson to see what he has. He was the guy that I had my eyes set on last season, especially with the beginning of this new regime and this new defense. I thought he was a perfect fit in this 4-3, and we ended up losing him off the practice squad. That sucked because we could really use him now. And I don't know what's going on with Jalen Johnson, but who knows how much longer he's going to be out.
I read a tweet that he may play Thursday.
I think so too.
Oh.
I think they were making sure that quad was full. I think they tried to bring Bayless back maybe a little bit too soon, so they might have taken it a little bit easy on the quad coming back. But yeah, you could theorize if Thomas Graham would be any better, but I know Jalen Jones had a tough day, so that's on paper. Again, I think he tried he hustled. I don't think he gave up on himself, but there was a talent discrepancy for sure. He would, they were almost too scared to play press, so they played him back, and they were just getting eaten up underneath all day.
Surprisingly, he had the most tackles of the team on defense, though. Jalen Jones.
He had like 9 or 10 tackles, right?
He had like 13.
Oh.
Let's see if I still have this slide here. Yeah, I do.
If we lose
13
Thursday,
tackles.
I was just going to say, because I didn't know how long it would take you. If we would lose Thursday, the Bears don't play to the following Monday night. So it's going to be like 2 weeks of just like, how can we be 2-4? So if we can get back to 500, then we can feel good about that win. Like I said, for nearly 2 weeks, and hopefully take care of business against the Patriots.
That'll be a slog if they lose on Thursday, having to sit with that.
Yeah, exactly.
Who is the next team that we play after that?
At New England on Monday night.
Oh, that's right. New England Monday night, yes.
And then at Dallas, and then our game in Soldier Field against the Dolphins.
Speaking of the Pats, I'm always up to see a team give the Packers a run for their money. But were either of you guys pulling out your hair when Bailey Zapp, or whatever the kid's name is, comes in with freaking who's their offensive coordinator, quote unquote, former coach for the Lions?
I don't know. I don't follow the Patriots.
The fat guy with the beard.
Matt Patricia?
Matt Patricia, yeah.
They have Matt Patricia as an offensive coordinator with their third string quarterback, or whoever this kid is, coming in and like putting up 24 on the Packers. I'm like, that was, again, I'm like, why can't we, like, what is missing on the Bears aside from Bill Belichick?
Wait a second. Matt Patricia is an offensive coordinator.
Yeah, I was
I'm
going to
pretty
say
sure he's calling
he's
plays in New England.
he was always the defensive coordinator prior to his Detroit job.
Yeah, he was on the defensive side. I might be tripping, but I'm 85% sure he's calling their offensive plays.
I don't. Oh, now I have to look this. Oh, Kitty, you got to look that up.
And I'm sorry if I'm
It
wrong.
says it says Matthew Edward Patricia is the senior football advisor and offensive line coach for the New England Patriots. So
What?
he's on the offense. He's the O-line coach.
What? A
He's
fucking
the O-line
defensive
coach.
coordinator, failed head coach becomes an offensive coordinator / offensive line coach?
No, offensive line coach and senior assistant.
Oh.
So I would assume he's not calling the plays, but I don't know. I don't pretend to be a Patriots expert. I've watched 0 games of New England sans
too.
their playoff games in this entire run. I just hate watching them play.
God, me too. The Patriots are just, I feel for every other team in that division for all those years because we know what it's like, and it's to know all the cheating and everything that's gone on with them. It's just disgusting. You don't feel right about any of their wins,
Yeah, I think
It's
it was
like-
a combination of the Patriots and Brady when obviously it was at its peak and like just overall hate. And I, typically just me as a person, but I have my mom hates both sides, Brady and Patriots. I don't as much. Maybe because I don't have to, like, all my hate goes towards the Packers, so it doesn't like resonate with me as much. But it's
Speaking of Kenny, we had a pre-production meeting to kind of get to know each other before this. Why don't you explain your Packers situation?
yeah. So I'm from Northern Illinois, Lake County. Shout out Lake County, Illinois.
Grew up in the same town, or like a town next to me.
Yeah,
Crazy.
Exactly. Yeah. So I'm very used to like Bears Packers rivalry was always like very real, especially from just proximity of where we lived.
This
right
is like
up against the
15,
Wisconsin border.
20 minutes from the Wisconsin border. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm married into a pretty devout Packers family. So my wife and I have 2 days a year where we do not, it's a battle all day, doing dishes, just shooting evil looks at each other. I usually have to make buffalo wings or like something else delicious to kind of like diffuse the tension. But man, I really do. I hate green and yellow. I hate Aaron Rodgers. I hate anyone who's donned a Packers jersey. They really,
And you live in Wisconsin.
I live in Wisconsin now,
So you're surrounded by them.
Yeah, I'm not too. I like a little bit of the jabbing, but it's like after an embarrassing loss. I still try to throw on my Bear stuff, but it gets a little bit tough. My work meetings are full. I log on to my computer and it's all just like Packers gifts. So yeah, it's been a struggle. I have to explain. They don't quite get like why I have such a hatred towards the Packers, but I'm 29 years old. Like, they've pretty much poo-pooed most
whole
of my
life.
football life.
Dan, could you imagine would you be able to date Ginny if she was a Packers fan?
Okay. I got to say something that's rated R. Is that going to be okay? Because I don't want to.
No.
Well, if it's not, really, I don't want to say it then.
Of course it's okay. It's his last call at Halas Hall, Dan.
Well, last week got a little dirty. So, this is a true story. It was during the pandemic. I won't say her name. I was doing this lady, she tells me to go ahead, so I do my business. She's on birth control, thank God, but I do my thing. And then after, like within 5 minutes, she tells me that she's a Packers fan. I said, why didn't you tell me that before I came?
Get out of my house.
Like, why? Like, she said, are you kidding? I said, there's no way I come in you if you're a Packers fan, if I know that. No way. She's like, what the fuck, Dan? I was like, because I can't reproduce with a Packers fan. Like, what if, God forbid, something happens and we create a fucking human being? Like, I don't want to raise a kid with a Packers fan. And needless to say, she and I only fucked like one more time after that because she was deeply offended. But that's a true story. I would not have come in her if I'd have thought she was a Green Bay fan first.
Did you double down on the condoms the second time?
I don't even know if we did it another time after that.
I wear one.
Yeah, that's probably right. But I was just saying, though, I don't even know if we may not have done it again. I'm just saying, I know it wasn't too many. Yeah, she soiled my seat.
Yeah, I go back and forth. Obviously, that's where I ended up. But, like, I'm almost happy about it because I don't know if I want to be with another, like, avid Bears fan because that's kind of like my escape. It's like the one thing with, like, the Bears come on. That's my alone time. That's the one time where it's like, leave me alone. Like, this is what I'm doing. But, like, I don't know if I'd want, like, getting, like, it's almost worse, like, because we just don't talk to each other during the games. We make, like, our comments. I usually am the one getting angry. But I think
you're used to it now. You're used to
it from, like, where I grew up. I think it might be worse, like, being married to somebody who's also super and, like, emotionally invested in the Bears.
Right.
I don't know. I like it when she watches games with me. I kind of dig it. Like, she obviously is rooting for the Bears because of me. And I like it. Like I said, it kind of makes me feel less alone versus like rooting for the team that it's always an uphill battle to score. Or if we do score, then the defense can't fucking stop anybody. And it's just like, it helps me feel like moral support because she wants them to win for me. So I kind of dig that.
No, I like watching the games with Kitty. I mean, in the beginning, she was like, what are you fucking doing? You can't change this game. Why are you doing this, weird ritual before the game or whatever it is? You can't, you're not going to change the game, and then she'd be like, why are you getting so upset at things? And
things you can't control, Dan. Things you can't control. Right, exactly.
Nothing I can control. And eventually she just came to, this is how he is. And then when after they lost the championship game to the Packers and I went completely freaking numb for almost 2 years, she was like smacking me in the face, like, come on, get out of it. Like, what's wrong with you? Like, where's Bears fan Dan? Like, sorry, I know that's you, Dan, but I'm also a Dan, so. And I'm like, I don't know where he is. And she was like, you got to get back. Like, this is weird. And so I was like, okay, I'm gonna get back into this. This is like late John Fox era. Then they get Trubisky. They're like, okay, I'm gonna get behind this kid, and and
I know I told you this before, but
she's like, you have to do a podcast. I'm like, okay, I will.
That Packers loss in 2010 was devastating for me as well, but the one that was just so much worse for me was the Randall Cobb play in 2013. I think because of the 2010 game and 30 years of losing to them, I just thought, man, if we can just get this one, and if you won the game, you were in the playoffs, and we were up 28-20 in the fourth quarter, and I just God, this is our game. We're gonna make the playoffs, and we got Cutler, and he's gonna redefine his legacy, coming back to beat Aaron. And when Cobb caught that pass, like I said, I threw the only time I've thrown a remote controller and broken it, had broken a remote. That one was just fucked me up for a long time, like the whole off season.
The 2010s were the two 50 burger games, right, to the Patriots and the Packers.
That was in 14.
Okay, yeah, and then 13, yeah, the what is that when the Sports Illustrated, the magazine, came out saying "Bring on the Packers"?
That was 2010, the championship game.
Okay,
I've got that hanging up. I don't mean to be a know-it-all. I just have.
No, I appreciate it. I've been hit in the head too many times. So those games.
The picture you're talking about in SI was taken during the Seattle playoff game when Olin is snapping the ball to Jay and his mouth is open and he's calling a play. And you see Roberto Garza as well. Yeah, and it says "Bring on the Packers." That's leading into the 2010 NFC Championship game. As devastated as I was by that loss, that 1-13 though, in Week 17 when Randall Cobb gets that catch on 4th down, is the one that just made me feel completely lost, like I was DiCaprio freezing to death at the end of Titanic in the water, you know?
Was that 14 or was that 13?
That's 13. 14, we didn't do shit. That's 13. The year that the offensive coordinator started crying because he was bad-mouthing Cutler. Then Cutler confronted him and he cried. And it was Trestman's last year. They had those 50 games he was referencing. 13 was Week 17. It was Green Bay at Chicago. The winner makes the playoffs. The loser's out. And the Bears led 28-20 with the touchdown, a great catch by Brandon Marshall where he turns around on a play that was supposed to be a run to Matt Forte, and Jay, it was on the goal line, kept it and threw it up in midair, and Brandon does a twist and catches it. We're up 8. It just looks like it's our game. It's in the 4th quarter. And sure enough, they get 4 straight 4th down conversions. The last play, Peppers is in Rodgers' face, lets him go, and then Rodgers throws it to Cobb when our bullshit, horrible safety is playing with his dick instead of playing coverage. The white guy, what's his name? Help me out, that fucking guy.
God, where is he now?
Chris Conte.
Chris Conte. And he had a pick 6 on Jay after that game when he was in Tampa Bay. I was like, fuck you, man. I hope your house burns down. You scrub.
I had a video of that that touchdown pass to Cobb you're talking about. I'm trying to find it here. That fucking game was just the 4th and 9. Like you said, they've completed how many 4th downs on that drive?
Like 4 straight.
My God, that was 4th and 9. Wide open Randall Cobb for a touchdown. We talked about this, Dan. We had the offense that year to overcome a bad defense. We could have scored 45 points and given up 40, you know?
Yeah, we had Martellus, we had Matt Forte, Alshon Jeffrey, who I didn't like. I thought he was an asshole and never – he's like, oh, did I hurt my toe? I think I'm going to sit out this one. He didn't have any heart. And, of course, we had B. Marsh, who a lot of people didn't like, but I liked Brandon Marshall a lot. So,
Brandon Marshall was – I mean, he still is one of the best receivers we've ever had, so.
Freak. Athletic freak.
Alshon Jeffrey, too, one of the best wide receivers we ever drafted.
How long of a career? You know, is he still in the league? If not, he just left.
He got to win that playoff game against us with Philly in Soldier Field when Parkey missed the field goal.
Oh, and he got to make us look like shit. Yep. That was fun.
Yeah, because he was doing the Hulk Hogan ear when the fans were booing him, if you recall.
Happens every time, right? We talk about this. It's why?
Yeah, when we get the former players such as Smith, Marset, you know, he gives the game away. But if the other team has a former Bear, then they excel. Like, it's the greatest game they've ever had. Alshon Jeffrey, 21 catches, you know. Just, why does that happen, man?
Was it Bernard Berrien that went to the Bengals?
He went to Minnesota and he went to Minnesota and had a 99-yard touchdown reception against us in 08 with like Gus Frerotte at quarterback too. But it was literally 99 yards on a Sunday night game in 08. I loved Bernard. I did not want him gone.
Oh my God. How does that even happen? Like, how is the fortune just so terrible that happens all the time to us, and we can just we get Edgar Bennett murders us on a Halloween night in the
my
sloppy
birthday.
mud fest.
Yeah, my 14th birthday.
He comes to the Bears and probably fumbled the ball and gave it back to the Packers, if I remember correctly, during one of those games. I mean, we never have that, like we've talked about, Dan, that FU game, the fuck you game back to the team that we got from, the player that we got from some other said team.
The only thing I can think of is right after the Cutler trade, we had a preseason game in Denver. I mean, in 09, before the regular season had begun, and they had all these like Cutler dolls with like diapers on and stuff. And Jay went out there and lit them up in the preseason and beat the Broncos. But he was 0-1 as a Bear against them. He only played in 2015. The game that you were at, the Marion Barber game with Tim Tebow, we had Caleb Haney playing in that one. But yeah, Jay lost the game in 15 to Denver at Soldier Field, but that's the only time he played him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that game that I was there with the what's his name running out of bounds. Oh God, that game was. We had that game in the bag. We left. We're like, we're gonna win this game. Let's get out of here. The parking's terrible. Listen to the ride home. Oh, Marion Barber ran out of bounds. They got the ball. Wait. We just lost? Oh my God. I can't find that video. Anyway, I'm losing my train of thought trying to find it, but it would have been fun. It would have been fun to pull that up. The pass to fucking Randall Cobb, just to get pissed off about it all over again.
Yeah, it's funny. I was watching the Vikings game. This came up a little bit, but I was thinking about a show a few shows ago when you were talking about rookie quarterbacks and how they always, it's either a rookie or a no-name quarterback that seems to come in and just have their best, career day against the Bears.
Daniel Jones.
Yeah.
For all the vaunted defense, it's like the two kryptonites are mediocre quarterbacks and like third and long, fourth and long. Like those just seem to always come back and bite us in the ass no matter who's on the field, what the situation is.
And former players.
Yeah, and former players.
It's
Yeah,
like
they can't get off the field, like you said. That drives me crazy. Whenever we need a stop with the defense, they can't get off the field. I mean, it doesn't matter if they have a great defense, a mediocre defense. They never get off the field when it's like, okay, we just need a stop and this game's ours. Never happens. Mm-hmm. Never.
Mm-hmm.
I was laughing during halftime when the stat came up. It was, offensive yards and time of possessions were all tripled. It was like 325 to 90 and like 7 minutes of possession to 22 minutes. I'm like, yeah, well, that's not going to get it done, boys.
No kidding, man. You had a couple of notes that we had for the game. Like, what did you think about Mustafa?
Oh.
My first thought was when he hit Justin in the gut with that early snap. I was like, who does he have nudes of? Well, it was like I wrote it in my notebook. I'm like, what are we doing here? I don't know. And maybe after, this, mini bye they have coming up after Thursday, there might be a move, but I doubt it. Like, I doubt it. You brought in Patrick, signed him to be your center. Obviously, you can't control that he got hurt, but.
And now Whitehair's hurt.
Right.
Yeah, Mustafa's not it. I mean, I don't think he got necessarily as like bullied as just like straight up, strength wise pushed off the ball. But it's like the mental mistakes too, when you're either giving up immediate pressure, or that's like the second or third, early snap I've seen. And you're supposed to be the guy, like they kept you because you have a fair amount of starting experience. So I can't imagine a switch at left guard would be any worse. But maybe it is. Maybe that's what they're seeing.
You know what he reminds me of? Not to interrupt you, Kenny. I'm sorry. He reminds me of like an NBA. I'll just say myself here. Somebody that could at times shoot very well, but I couldn't move laterally quick at all, and I couldn't play defense. So I'm a liability at all times.
Could you dunk?
No, I mean I'd have to use two hands. I couldn't palm the ball. My hands aren't big enough to palm the ball. But the thing is, in just those situations, it feels like me trying to play basketball. It's like his fucking feet are in cement. Like he does not have any quickness with his feet at all. It's like I said, I'm comparing him to me in that regard. Like I'm just the average player could just blow by me. And that's the way, when I watch him, that's what I think. He's a guy that literally the NBA zone would be the only thing that could save this guy and keep him in the league, where the zone's legal now. He has no movement with his feet at all, to me.
Mm-hmm. You see him get turned around that his hips and his feet stay planted a lot.
Exactly. Yeah. It's just that he has no lateral movement at all.
And I'm surprised it hasn't come up in any press conference, really. Like, I don't know how afraid the media always talks about like the hard hitting, this is Chicago, not like the small media, like we're gonna grill you. When was the last time you heard a question? You're like, ooh, like what are they gonna say to that? Like,
right.
I don't understand. Like it hasn't been brought up at all. How are you not like, Coach? Do you think, he's always saying, we're going to put out the best five. Like, well, are you? Well, why'd you sign Michael Schofield, who's a 9-year vet, if you're afraid to play him? Why'd you keep Jatiri Carter on your 53-man roster if you're afraid to play him? I thought you were the regime that's going to play your young guys and let them figure it out. What is Sam gonna give you if he hasn't improved in the last 2 years of him getting real game time tick? If this is what you're getting, it's time to move on. Like you signed a center, you thought that as well.
They have to be married to his brains. Is the only thing I can think of.
Yeah,
they need the brains on the line in this teaching moment of the offense, kind of on the fly, which is pretty much what it is.
Yeah.
Oh, Dan's got to go.
I got to go turn the alarm off. I'll be right back.
Yeah, I was thinking that too, because that was the thought I had. It was like, it's got to be his experience, knowledge of the offense, but you're still getting mental mistakes. And, and I don't know if he's calling the defense, pointing out the mic, because it sounds like they're giving Justin most of that responsibility. So that's where I come in, and I'm just left to think like, well, why are you here then?
That's a good point with Justin. That could be the case with him calling out the, IDing players on the line and such. So
yeah, it sounds like he goes to the line most of the time with two plays, which is, it's good he's getting that experience. Obviously, it's not going to be perfect, but if you're not relying on your center to make those line adjustments,
I almost feel like they're like they figured they invested so much money into Patrick that they just need to get him on the field. And they're just automatically assuming he's their best offensive lineman at one of those 3 interior positions as a backup.
Yeah.
And they're using the money as the excuse. Unless they're seeing something different in practice out of Jatire Carter that that we're not seeing. I'm only going off of what I saw in training camp and preseason games, which, doesn't say much, but it's worth wondering, does the contract have something to do with it?
Yeah, I am no great football mind, but I watched Jatire's Senior Bowl tape, and I thought obviously it's different, but he looked like he had a solid base and really good recovery. Even if he got initially beat off the line, he was able to kind of anchor his feet down. So that's a kid I would like to get some tick. The problem is you have Justin Fields behind you who's, left to pay the consequences for whatever that is. So they might just truly feel like changes right now are going to do more harm than good.
Right.
I thought going through the Minnesota game, there was the 2 sacks that came in, but I thought the pass protection was mostly decent. Nothing to write home about, but decent. The run blocking to me in the last 2 to 3 weeks has kind of fallen off. Where after the first 2 weeks are like, we can run on anybody. Like, they're at least a good run blocking team. And
right.
I just feel like Khalil's been a bit ineffective. They're not getting the same kind of push. So
right.
They almost flip-flop those 2 sides.
You're right. They did. It's like okay, let's put all our focus into pass blocking now. Okay, coach. Just forget all the run blocking stuff we've been working on. We've got all that down. Let's work on pass blocking now. And then they get into the game like, okay, let's focus on all these. We're gonna pass more this game, so let's focus on all the pass blocking techniques we've been working on this week. Okay, coach. And then they come out there and they have a better game pass blocking. It's good to see.
Yeah,
so it does
expected.
Give us hope.
Yeah.
And by the way, we forgot to mention, we're getting near the end of the show here. We have 1 question starred. So if you guys have any questions for us or anything you want us to bring up in chat, we can talk with you guys in chat now. And by the way, if you would like to join us on Bears Country Podcast, please email us at bearscountrypodcast@gmail.com, and we'll be happy to bring you on the show. That's how Kenny's here. Kenny emailed us, and he wanted to come on the show, and we're happy to have him. He's an awesome guest. Thank you very much, Kenny, for coming on with us. So for anyone that wants to join us, email us down there. You see it on the ticker, and get your questions. Pull your questions up here. We have some people left here in chat are live still, so we have 1 question starred, and we can start pulling up some of those questions and kind of get involved with the chat now, because we've been rambling on our own on both the Barroom Network and here, not really even talking to you guys. We apologize. So Kitty, let's pull up the first question that we do have. Kitty, there you go. Do you think USMC 1994 asks, do you think that Fields breaks 300-plus passing yards this game? I don't think we have a 300-plus passer since Cuddy. Ooh.
Didn't Matt Barkley have a 300 one?
Yes, he did. And so did Trubisky.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think he had at least 2 or 3. The Tampa Bay game was a 300-plus game for 6 touchdowns. But do you guys think that he can break 300 yards passing this game? I'll let you take that question, Dan, first.
Until I see it, I'm going to say no. But is he capable? Yes. But Washington also, at least last year, had a fairly stout D line, which worries me in terms of protections. But he's capable, but I don't know if it's going to happen this week.
Kenny?
Yeah, I'm gonna kind of piggyback off that. I think there's definitely an opportunity but probably not. Maybe, during the play calling, I think it seemed like a lot of we're either running it or we're chucking it. This past game, there seemed to be more work underneath to the flats, to the check downs. So maybe a few busted runs, someone breaking off, but I would have to say no. Not that I haven't watched much of the Commandos this year to know exactly how their defense is performing.
I'm going to break the chain here and say, based on these numbers, which have been projecting upwards, last week he had, 170-something yards passing? This week, 21 attempts, 208 yards passing? I'm going to say yes. He's gonna have 307 yards passing this week, Thursday, against the Commanders. Good question. Thank you for bringing that up. St. Omni, 15 pass completions isn't going to make it. No, he's going to have 31 pass attempts. He'll be 25 of 31 for 370 yards and 2 touchdowns. That's what I'm going. I'm going to write that down. I need that as ammo.
Pettis drops might account for that missing 80 to 90 yards.
I'm going to give it the N'Keal Harry benefactor coming back this game. And like you said, Dan, Velus Jones getting more involved in this game. I think this is the breakout game. I'm going to call it. Thank you for that good question, because I'm going to say yes. 25 of 31, 307 yards, and 2 touchdowns. That's what I'm going with. I wrote it down.
Well, I can tell you, if you get that right, you deserve to be gratified I'm going to be a PG, gratified in any way you want sexually. From obviously from one individual that you're married to, I'm not trying to advocate an affair.
What happened to you, Dan? You got so PG all of a sudden.
I just don't want to offend anybody.
I would expect you to say that you need to be gratified with a blowjob.
That's what I was trying to say, but I didn't want to make Kitty mad at me either. So
no, Dan, I'm a fan. I've listened to many Barroom episodes, so yeah, you guys are good.
Absolutely, right. Dan. You're not offending anyone.
Not what about her? I didn't want to offend her.
No, you're not. Kitty, is he offending you? She's probably not even on right now. It's just I just see her.
She's like, I've heard that blowjob joke. I'm leaving.
No, you're not offending me.
Okay, good. All right. Well, if he's right about Fields throwing for 307 yards, then by God, give him the best blowjob he's had since 1999. I'll just pull that figure out of my ass.
Since 1999.
And we'll play Prince when we do that.
Or the Limp Bizkit cover, which was also really good.
There you have it, Dan. You're good to go. So okay? So this isn't a question, but we win by 14 points. Defense gets 2 turnovers. Offense keeps the momentum with Mooney and Komet having their best games this Thursday. I love the optimism, Leo factor. Thank you. I'm gonna write that down. We're gonna take a screenshot of that, Leo factor. There you go. We win by 14. I thought I took a screenshot. I don't need to do that. I like your optimism. USMC 94 says, I hope Brisker gets his interception soon. We just need a solid number 2 corner, and we have one of the best secondaries in the NFL. Dude, Kyler Gordon is slowly becoming a solid number 2 corner, man. Seriously, better and better every game. I think it's actually, even though we lost both games, it's going to come down as a what's that word? That phrase I'm looking for. It's going to benefit them in the future by having Gordon play these two games, really having to step up his game with Jalen Johnson out. So Brisker, he will get his interception soon.
He's been heating up. I think he's got to start. He's trusting his eyes more on where to go. So I think the more comfortable he gets in tracking, you're going to see more of those impact plays start to come when, he's got more of a mental idea of what's going on. And I'm sure right now it's going 100 miles an hour for him.
He's a smart kid that uses his eyes a lot too, to his advantage. So those interceptions will come because of that. Do we have another question, Kitty? Saint Omni, who is going to make the bad play of the game? Ooh.
I hope it's Carson Wentz.
I was going to give you the mic. Thank you. Yes.
Carson Wentz is going to throw 3 picks.
Oh, let me write that down.
Twist both his ankles on the same play.
3 picks. He's not going to just no Joe Theismann moments though. That's all. I don't, none of that.
Or Alex Smith for that matter.
All right. Wentz will take a shower and play amazing.
Let's hope not. I hope he takes a shower.
Do we call him a Hall of Famer this time or no?
No, fuck it. I'm just telling you, he needs to take a bath, and he's gonna fucking blow the game for Washington. I'm pounding my chest on this one. I'm being chesty.
Me too.
That's probably
I guaranteed victory against San Francisco. I don't want to do that here because I almost look like a dumbass for the first half against 49ers. But God, I don't believe in Wentz at all. I'll just say that.
You can't lose on rolling out a new uniform night. You got to put respect on the orange unis.
Oh, is that the orange helmet?
We're wearing the orange helmet and orange jersey against Washington and then against Dallas as well. The Dallas game's on the road, but Dallas wears white at home, so we're wearing orange that day too.
Oh, what's the pants?
It's the white pants.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what it looks like on TV and in person, because when they rolled out the picture, it almost seemed odd that the orange jersey wasn't quite the same orange as the helmet. So I'm really excited to see what they look like on the broadcast.
Yeah, but sometimes you ever notice that sometimes the Bears jerseys look black and sometimes they just look really light blue?
Yes. Especially during the Ditka era, they looked black a lot, even though they were still blue.
Right. They were like that real navy, almost black blue.
Yeah, we had navy even with Reebok, but when Nike took over in 2012, the color officially become marine blue. It's not navy now. Nike calls it marine blue. So it's a different shade. It's brighter.
It's like this Urlacher jersey is a legitimate jersey. That's almost that dark.
That's dark
blue.
But you can tell that's a Reebok one because look at where the 5 is. Those are called TV numbers, right? On the side. When Nike took over, they moved those numbers to the shoulder. They're up top now.
Yeah, this is a Reebok one, yeah.
That's what I'm saying. The 5 and the 4 on Urlacher's sleeve would be up by the shoulder blade now. And Nike did that, and they turned the color marine blue.
Right, and that's what this Peyton is. This Peyton has them on the shoulders.
See? Yeah.
And it's that wrong blue. You could tell even in that lighting. It'll be interesting to see the new helmets. I can't wait now that I completely forgot about those until you guys even mentioned it. We have one more question left, Kitty. Leo Factor, what do you guys say to the people who use the excuse that it's a rebuild year when talking about the talent Poles signed on offense? Did Poles do enough this offseason? I'm going to go around the clock on that one. I'll go to you first, Kenny.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of both. I think you have to factor in the position that they were in with, dead money and having to figure a few things out. During that first half, I was definitely thinking like going secondary in the first two picks was bold. They could definitely use an Alec Pierce out on the outside, who I was a big fan of coming out of the draft. But I think he did okay. I wish you could say you want them to do more on the offensive line, but they drafted like 5 or 6 O-linemen, brought in some free agents. You never know how guys are going to pan out. So it's like brought Byron Pringle coming in and, going out of injury after making, one notable catch. It is tough. They certainly didn't plan on that. Dante Pettis has not been pulling his weight. I thought, one of the things that annoyed me was the coaching, going to him on the 2-point conversion when I think you have more explosive players. Like if you brought in Bayless, if you're going to have him returning kicks and doing end arounds, why can't you trust him to catch a ball in the flat and try to break it for the 2 yards? Rather than going to a guy who's been dropping the ball for multiple weeks and is not that is fast, but not explosive and strong. So that annoyed me in the game, most of all was just the use of personnel. But back to Poles, I'm still on the fence that he's doing about as well as he can. It is a rebuild year. Ideally, it would have been last year, and we would have been in the second year had they decided to tear everything down last year. So we're a bit behind the 8 ball in that perspective.
Dan?
I like the fact that we're going to see, ideally, N'Keal Harry on Thursday. He's got a big body. Got a lot to prove, and maybe he has that revenge game against the Patriots that we're all wanting in a couple weeks for a current Bear against his former team. That would be nice. But I think that he brings in at least a different body type than the other receivers that we have now. So I like that. He's not going to be, the little shifty Darnell Mooney, although Mooney made a great catch. I'm not trying to be dismissive. I'm just saying, but he's a short guy, and Harry's 6'4". He's big, just a big bodied guy. So I think that could be a sneaky good trade now that he's in. Well, he'll be back, and I hope that the kid from Sunday bounces back too. But to go bring him back to the question, I mean, I don't know yet. It's still, we've played 5 games. The offensive line is still the part I'm most disappointed in. Well, maybe the defense too, because Eberflus, I thought, they repaired the secondary, and we got a real coach now. He knows how to coach defense. You figured the defense would improve with better secondary, but that hasn't happened. You give up 21 straight points to start a fucking game. It's maddening. But that offensive line, I bought into the fact that, Ryan Poles knows offensive lines because, he's an offensive lineman. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but someone's talking about St. Brown being 6'3", but Harry's a bigger guy, though. Just in terms of his overall stature and I don't think St. Brown necessarily sucks anyway. I just feel like he hasn't had a lot of opportunities, and maybe that's his own fault. But nevertheless,
he's actually 6'4", 6'5", too.
Well, to bring it to Poles, I think that the biggest failure thus far has been the offensive line, where it's like we're stuck playing Sam Mustipher because Olin Kreutz likes him or something. I get it. If you put Patrick in at center, you got to have a hole at left guard. They probably think they're better with Mustafa at center and Patrick at left guard than starting a rookie at left guard. But my God, like Sam Mustafa has just been horrible. And I would have expected Poles to know that. And like, I thought Mustafa was going to get cut before Patrick got hurt. I really did. Because he's garbage, man. So I don't know the answer to the question, but I am disappointed with the offensive line. Go ahead, Dan. Sorry.
No, I need the question pulled back up by Kitty. So to answer your question, Leo, the first part, what do you guys say to the people who use the excuse that it's a rebuild year when talking about the talent Poles signed on offense? To the first part of that question, my answer is I think that people are not using it as an excuse. I think that it's just their natural fallback option to it's like a security blanket that you have to assume that this team is just rebuilding and they're just scrapping everything and starting over again. So that's going to be my excuse for why this team sucks this year. Whereas myself personally has taken the exact opposite approach to that, thinking brand new blood coming into the facility and putting in a brand new offense and defense only adds to the mystery of the team, especially in the beginning of the season. And that was kind of why I had an 11-6 record, because I thought we could sneak out 4 wins in the beginning and we would have lost this Minnesota game just like we did and been okay with it because we would have been 5-1 or 4-1. That was my thinking. That's my optimistic thinking. So taking that optimistic route, I'm just thinking that people just naturally assume that because of what happened, he came in and got rid of Mac, traded Mac. He got rid of the contract that they don't have to pay anything after this year. Excellent move. He turned 5 draft picks into 11 and doubled down on the offensive line, chips to see what he has. And so far, it's been working. We've kept most of those players that we drafted. In fact, a lot of them are on the field on game day through the first 5 games. So I think that the people that are using that as an excuse is just, that's what they're doing because they're just choosing to be negative. The second part to your question, Leo, is did he do enough? Did Poles do enough this offseason? I think he did it kind of what I was just saying. I think he did enough to this point. I mean, you can only do so much. He turned 5 picks into 11. He got a bunch of big contracts off the books for next season to open things up. He got us a brand new slate of, it's not like we just had 5 draft picks. Now we have to go into next season with all this draft pick hope. We got an extra, 6 picks out of that last year. He more than doubled the amount of picks that he had to start with. So if you can take that kind of mentality going into the future, what can he do trading down to get more picks to use his talent evaluation to add even more to that? If he can hit 4 players out of this draft, what can he do out of next year's draft? And so did he do enough this offseason with what he had to work with? 100%. And I don't think that we can sit here shitting on Sam Mustafa and the offensive line. Yes, he comes from an offensive lineman background. So does Ian Cunningham. But, he's done what he could with this offensive line with what he had. He brought in, he's traded for people. He's brought in free agents. He's brought in undrafted free agents. Michael Schofield didn't even work out. He's not even on the team anymore, but he tried. Dozier, I don't wish injury on anybody, but if Dakota Dozier was still on this offensive line in this rotation, I'd be even a little bit more worried. I'd almost rather have what we have right now. So Can you foresee Cody Whitehair getting injured? If he's missed like 2 games in his entire career. That's the unfortunate part of, did he do enough? I think he did. It's just we lost Cody Whitehair for at least now another 3 games. So I think we're just going to get through this. I think things are getting better. We got to get through the weeds of the learning of the offense, and things will start to come together. The principles are still in place. They're still working. Everyone's still following them. So I'm just remaining positive. That's all. Sorry for my rant.
You can definitely be critical of some of the decisions, but I would say I would think of it more as a caveat than an excuse. Like, you do have to take into consideration, again, the point the franchise was at, where they had gotten themselves, and you had to shed some talent and some contracts. And had you not, you would have been thinking, like, next year is that sandbagging you, thinking, wow, I wish they would have just came in and cut the cord and gotten rid of that and acted with intent, rather than, going back. It's like, oh, well, do we keep this aging, all-star
Khalil Mack?
Khalil Mack, exactly, Akeem Hicks. Do you try to run those guys back, or do you shed weight, figure out who can play ball on this team, and then march towards the future?
Right. Kitty, it looks like you have one more question. Leo Factor, you trust Velas to return kicks for 99 yards and get whacked, but he can't run an out route?
Yep.
Yeah, no, I don't know why he's not playing receiver. Do you have any input on that, Dan? Why is he not playing? Why isn't he doing an out route?
I don't know, but he scored on an end around that should have been considered a run, but is a pass. So whatever. I would assume he'll be assimilated more and more in the weeks to come.
Yeah, I think it's going to start this Thursday, like you said.
Especially with Pettis being just such an unequivocal fucking bust of a acquisition.
Yeah. I mean, I liked taking the swing on the 1-year deals. At least it's a 1-year deal. Same thing with Pringle.
I would have cut him Sunday.
Pringle's a 3-year. Yeah.
I literally text Aldo, they should cut Pettis. And at the same time, he tweeted something like, Dante Pettis, the coach needs to see you. Bring your playbook. So we had the same fucking thought at the same time. That's true.
Here's your pink slip.
I was doing home renovations on Sunday, so the first update I got from the game was a tweet saying they should leave Dante Pettis in Minnesota. I'm like, okay, well, this must be going good. Luckily, I was already breaking stuff around my house for that first half, so I didn't look like too much of a psycho.
You're already hitting a wall with your hammer anyway.
Exactly. I was ripping some drywall down.
Well, that's actually an excellent, source of getting off your energy for a shitty first half like that. That's for sure. Well, guys, I think that's a wrap for Last Call at Halas Hall this night. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I got to do my radio show anyway. I got to get it on by midnight Eastern. So,
well, thank you all very much for joining us in chat tonight. We appreciate you all very much. Kenny, thank you for being our guest tonight from chat. Again, if anyone wants to join us, email us at bearscountrypodcast@gmail.com. We'll be happy to bring you on the show and do some Last Call at Halas Hall breakdown with you. Until next week, we'll see you next week, Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time on the Barroom Network. Make sure you like and subscribe to Barroom Network and Bears Country Podcast. Plus, we have more stuff coming out on Bears Country Podcast this week with the Lowdown with Lynn Hayden on Wednesday, so look out for that. Thank you all very much for tuning in. You guys want to do it on a 1, 2, 3? 1, 2, 3. Bears.
Bears.